Thank you for tuning into or watching the Choice, Change and Action podcast. My name is Simone Milasas and I am your host. Your choice creates your future. Every choice you make, action you take, you create a change for you and the world. Please enjoy this podcast. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take me too seriously. Don't trust me. Trust you. You are the one that knows what will work for you. And have way too much fun enjoying your choices. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me here. And I hope you enjoy this podcast coming up. It's with my very good friend and colleague, Dr. David Kubes, who's one of my favorite people to talk to about business and about life and everything, and that ability to extrapolate of, not having to look for a result, but what possibilities are available. So we talk about being an effective leader and knowing those moments where you can pivot and you can change things up. One of the things I've been looking at is rearranging my business, but not rearranging my business in order to find a result, rearranging my business in order to have more possibilities show up. So please enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe. Join us on YouTube as well. There's going to be a lot more happening on YouTube. And just truly thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and thank you for listening. And have the best day ever. Bye. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas, and I have the lovely, the wonderful, the amazing, the inspirational Dr. David Kubes here today. Welcome, David.
Hello. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me again on your podcast. One of my favorite. Can I just say that?
Thank you. And hey, I'd like to just say too that thank you to everyone out there who pings me for listening to this podcast, because this really is about topics that I would like you all in the world to know more about. So I try to make it very real and very rustic and informative, and hopefully you can listen to a podcast and you can start to change an area of your life or increase it, get some inspiration, because that's the utopian ideal that I seem to function from every now and then, is that everybody can have their freedom, and you get to choose you and I get to choose me. And I would like more of that. So I will keep heading in that direction. And that is what I know I desire in the world. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is leadership. And I get that when we say the word leadership, it gets so misconstrued. It's almost like, well, that's the boss. This is the da-da-da, whatever. So I want to ask you first off, David, it's like, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, for me, leadership means to literally always be and do what I know is required. I do respect a certain form and setup and hierarchy in companies, but I would not do something because of a certain structure, because of a certain hierarchy. I would find a very diplomatic and discreet or honoring way around to go where I know or wish to go. It's this not making yourself smaller, not giving up, not being in that position. Oh, I can't change it. Someone else is in charge. I think this for me is the most important element in leadership, to keep going what you desire to create in the world. And of course, always be aware of where are you within an organization, where are you, not ignoring it, not being a rebel, but still being always the one that keeps going and that keeps demanding, and that is following what's required.
So one of the things you just sort of you mentioned then, but almost brushed over, that I want to bring up is that place where people think, oh, well, I'm just one person. I can't make a change. I can't be influential. My choice isn't going to change the future. I think every single person, you change the future by your choices every single day. And for me, leadership is so much about knowing where you're heading, knowing what it is that you desire and choosing that. And I mean, this is a really small example, but it could be a big example. Like a big choice is if you look at money in our society at the moment, and cash, and all the different conflicts that are going on, and the different countries, governments, etc., trying to stop cash. And if you look at the history of money, it's taken on so many different terms, and how it was created, from swapping eggs for whatever, a corn, etc. Like it's really taken on so many different transactions. And now, though, it's like, say in Australia at the moment, there's quite a few shops that I go to, or different practitioners, etc., and they have a sign out there saying, "Hey, if you can pay cash, please pay cash." And I love that they ask, and I do,
Mhm.
and I go, "Sure, you want cash? I'll pay you cash." It's like, my local butchers. I feel like I'm the only person who ever pays cash, and it always puts a smile on his face when I do. And I think there's a really personal interaction that occurs when somebody pays cash for a service or a product. And I think that's what cash gave us. And where you spend your dollar today creates a different future. Like, even if you look at Gary Douglas, who's here, he's the founder of Access Consciousness. And he said to me, "I love in Australia the way you still have butcher shops." And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "We don't have that anymore." He said, we all, it's the supermarkets. And my local butcher is right next door to a big supermarket. But I go to the butcher, and it's like, so I could just go, "Oh, I'll just get it in the supermarket because that's convenient." Or I could choose to spend money in the butcher's.
But thank you so much for bringing up that example with paying cash. And it takes two. It takes one who asks for it, who has the demand, and someone else who goes, okay, I'm choosing this. And I love it, because for me, leadership is the ultimate knowing that you are not the effect of anything. Yes, the world
Oh,
wants to head in that direction. Do you want to be
mm,
the effect of that? And
mm.
especially with those little shops, we have the same thing in Europe with the bakeries. You can get all the you can get everything in a big supermarket, but it doesn't have the same quality. You don't get this interaction you have. And I am one of those. I know, I go to the bakery. I don't need to have the convenience of having everything in one store. No, I take another left turn, walk 10 meters, and then I go to the bakery. And I like the personal interaction there. And I'm choosing to support that little shop. And I know I'm not the only one, but even if I was the only one, if I'm not the one starting it, who else then? So
Yes.
that not being the effect of global movements, we all can direct it. We all can change them. You cannot be the effect. Knowing you're a leader, leadership is the knowing you cannot be the effect of anything. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it seems a little bit, oh my God, there's still so much things to complete, so many things to accomplish. But if you never start, how will you ever
Yeah.
get there? So that 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 gift also gave me so much freedom, knowing I'm not the effect of any form or structure or movement. I can still choose. So some of these choices seem to be so small and so tiny, but hey, the size doesn't matter. The choice does. And we
You're,
have to make these choices if we want to create a world that's different. You can't
yeah.
swim in the mainstream and desire something different. We have to be that difference in every action we take, no matter how small it is or tiny it seems. It matters.
It does. And we're talking about effective leadership. And I think what immediately goes into people's heads is business and corporate. And what David and I just showed you was, it goes into every area of your life, every aspect. It's like, how are you being with your family? How are you being with your friends? How are you being with the people that you work with? It's like, what is that? What is that true leadership for you? And for me, so much about true leadership is really that piece about knowing what I would like to create in the world. Like, even from, I think, around 16, 17, I knew I desired to create a different world, for people to look at each other in a different way, for people to know that there's another possibility, not just, conform into what everybody else is doing, but also not to judge that, like not to go against that, but for me to be so true to me and what it is that works for me. So here I am, working with Access Consciousness, I don't know, 23 years in now. And for me, using the Access Consciousness tools is such a great way to move forward not from resistance and reaction, not from fight, not from creating conflict, but from being an allowance of what others are choosing, being an allowance even of yourself. Like, what if there is nothing wrong? There is nothing wrong with what you choose or what somebody else chooses. What I see is you always gain awareness from every single choice you've made. Some of them you have to learn to laugh at yourself a little bit and just go, oops. But you don't hold yourself back. You keep moving forward. Like, I love Dr. Dane here, we work with him and a mutual friend. He once said, most people have made, like he said, I've made more bad choices than most people have chosen. And to me, that is gold. Like, an effective, true leader chooses. They choose. It's not about getting it right. It's not about going to the wrongness, but you keep choosing, because as you choose, you gain more awareness. Like, I mean, the stories that David and I have in the businesses that we've been involved in over the years, like, we have some of the juiciest conversations when you hit this place where you're like, oh, okay, what's gonna show up now? And then we get more creative and extrapolate together and go, okay, what if this is possible? What if this is possible? What if this is possible? Like, to me, that true leadership is not stopping, it's knowing when to pivot and knowing when to change the trajectory of your business and of your life.
And also for me, it is looking at the joyful element of change. A lot of businesses always want to make it right, and every time they have to change something, they look into, okay, what went wrong? Why do we have to change it? I would love the world to a new way of looking at change. No, we change it because it's required. There was nothing wrong. We don't need to throw
Yes.
someone under the bus. We need to find out whose fault it was, what went wrong. All of this just takes the energy away from creation. But what would it take that people have this, wow, we can change it because it's required. We can
Yeah.
do it. And the choice we made, it didn't turn out the way we thought. Well, then let's change it without going into the wrongness. That element of empowerment, I think that's one of the most effective and important elements of being a leader, to empower rather than pointing fingers and finding out who did what mistake,
Yeah.
what went wrong. What if nothing went wrong? What if it just didn't
Mm.
turn out the way we thought? Why would that be wrong? The pressure that all the big company leaders are under at the moment is they rather not make a move or not make a decision because they're afraid to fail, which then turns the entire economy into this stall where everybody is afraid
Yeah.
to make a mistake. So they just stay where they are. I would love to infuse some new energy of creativity, of, hey, not making a choice, not making a decision, stopping. That's the only thing that will kill your business. But if you choose, well, then be open to what direction that choice takes you, and be ready to adjust and fine tune as you go. Because without going, there is no future. If we stop, it will stop. But if we make the choice to move on, that flexibility, that being open to change and looking at change as something that has value and not the result of something went wrong.
Yeah. I want to touch on that point about something went wrong, because I see that happen all the time in the workplace. And when I say workplace, it also happens in life, but we're addressing this towards business as well. And I know that I have done that. And one of the things that I learned over the years is, anytime, and it wasn't necessarily I was saying someone was wrong, but I know energetically I was projecting that. But if you break that down and have a look at it, what was actually occurring for me was I was trying to prove I was right. So when you are trying to prove that you are right, what then must happen? Somebody or something has to be wrong in order for you to be right. And I think that's a really key element, as you mentioned, David, of leadership is, what if nobody was right and nobody was wrong? There was just choices. And as you make choices, you will notice you make a choice, there's a whole lot of possibilities that show up. And sometimes, you might lose a deal, you might lose money, you might, lose a connection or something like that. You might gain a connection, you might make money, you might, all these different things can show up. But if you're not trying to choose from right and wrong, and you're actually being in question, true leadership, asking a question, will this create greater? Now, even when I say, will this create greater, most people go to the greater would be making money, making the deal go through, da, da, da. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes will it create greater, and you get like this, energetic yes, and you go, okay, let's go. And you make this choice. And then I call it like everything's falling together. You know how people go, everything's falling apart? I'm like, well, what if everything's falling together? And there's been quite a few moments in my life that I would say, okay, instead of going, everything's falling apart, you go, everything's falling together, because everything is unraveling and raveling at the same time. It's we're not linear. It's not about going A, B, C, D. It's sometimes it jumps all over the place. But that to me is the adventure of living. That to me is the adventure of business. And the true leadership, you will keep going, and you will keep going, and even keep going. Sometimes you've got to know when to go, okay, this deal's not going to work, or this business is not going to work. This time to, again, pivot and create a different choice, and expand it out into something that you may not have looked at before. But as David mentioned before, don't sit in the stop or the pause place. Keep moving forward, whatever it takes.
And I think this is the natural inherent energy that everybody starts with. It's the enthusiasm, it's the excitement, it's the creativity. People, what I see over time, they slow that down, they give that up. It's this, they get started, they just started something new, always there, and then they cover it up and give it up because they want to make things right, because they have more responsibility, because now they are responsible for that. As the higher they grow within the hierarchy, the less they want to choose, because they think they have more responsibility. My idea of this conscious leadership is to reactivate that enthusiasm, that creativity. That's why we all chose what we chose. This is why we chose this job. This is why you became a manager, you became a lawyer, you became this. That enthusiasm, that should always be there. That should always be the driving source. That is the thing that adds the fun and the joyful elements to the creativity. And when people are joyful and function from enthusiasm, they will automatically focus on the creativity and on what can we create, rather than being afraid to make a wrong choice. And I think that shift of the energy, where you put your energy, this is what you create as your future. And that's one of the yeah, that's one of my utopian ideals. If we can get people's attention and remind them that this is why you started your job, there is no need for working hard and being in trouble. Shifting that around and bring back that enthusiasm, that motivation, that empowerment, and that will create a whole different atmosphere in every workplace, when enthusiasm, creativity has more value than being afraid of making a mistake.
Yeah. And I think what goes with that is being the effective leader. One of the tools I've used over the years is to create that enthusiasm in people too. You're working on a project or a business and asking someone, okay, so what do you see we need to choose next? Like, sort of like create your own, to-do list or your project list. And then if you look at that together and then go, okay, what do you want to start with? Because if I said, can you start with this? There's no question in that. And I am being more of a dictatorship than actually being in question of, I think, an effective leader to say, what would you like to start with? And if somebody starts with the projects that they desire to start with, then there is a level of enthusiasm that you could never make someone be that enthusiastic if you were telling them what to do. So an effective leader for me is, and you'll find out really soon, if you look at, say, that they've written 10 things down that are required to, make a move for this project in order to, expand, and they'll pick 3. You may have picked another 2, but you'll soon have the information of what they don't desire to do. And I think one of the aspects of being an effective leader too is being able to hear that, see that, know that, and then go, you know what, I'm going to shift this over here to this person. Like, for me, being an effective leader is not also making someone do something that they don't actually desire to do. It's not going to move as quick, as fast, as much creativity and enthusiasm as you mentioned, David. It's like, don't put somebody in a job that they don't like. It's like putting someone doing accounts when all they want to do is talk to people. Okay, put them answering the phone. They want to have a chat. That could be somebody's worst nightmare. And it's one of the things I learned over the years, because I thought that everything that I didn't desire to do in a business, I was like, oh, I can't give that to somebody because that's cruel. And I soon realized, hang on a second, there's people who actually like filing. There's people who like the organization of it. That's not me. I'm a lot more chaos. And so when you hire people like that, they literally get so excited to organize everything. And I'm like, great. And then it creates something greater. Like that enthusiasm also exudes, throughout and for everybody. So it's like, can I ask you, David, what's some of the ways that you've led, and do you have any, examples of how that's showing up and what next?
Well, I started to create an atmosphere in the project that I work with where people know they can bring up what's going on in their world. They can actually add to what they are aware of, and they know they can actually be straightforward. They can say, sorry, that I don't want that. This is too complicated. So empower people and be that create that space where they're allowed to say no. We are so trained to say yes. If the boss tells you, please do this, you have to say yes. Otherwise, you lose your credit or they will be disappointed. Saying yes to everything and then struggling through is a waste of energy. And I changed that atmosphere and empower people. No, say no. If you don't like it, say no. It's better you say no and we find someone else than you struggling through it. And I empower people to say, hey, I want to find out where is your creativity, where is your enthusiasm. I want the best of your creativity, and I need your help to find out what that is. So let's find that out together. And if people start something and they go, oh God, that's just so annoying. Well, you have to say it, and we have to move it to someone else. I like to create teams where everybody comes and is excited and really going, wow, another amazing day where I get to be creative. And that it requires people to include everyone, to listen. And of course, sometimes there are things that nobody wants to do, but they have to get done. So I created that, I call it the let's just get shit done elements.
Oh, I love
But
that.
if you name it, just get shit done. I know I hate it, you hate it, it's annoying. So why don't we get this shit done in 2 hours and then go for lunch? That atmosphere. So it's not avoiding, and it's not this airy fairy, oh, everyone's happy. No, the company needs to move on, the project needs to move. Let's do it together. And if it's just annoying for everyone, let's annoy together for 2 hours and then have fun. I mean, that's a whole different atmosphere. And I could really see how people are so more effective. They are so more efficient. They're so more motivated. All this, I'll do this tomorrow, or sick days, all of that. It doesn't exist anymore, because people actually like to come to work. They don't need excuses anymore because they get to embrace their creativity the way it works for them. And I cannot know what works for other people. I can only inspire and empower them to let me know, so we find something that matches what inspires them, and then everyone and everything benefits.
I think this is, thank you, David, because I think it's such a key to, it's like this energy of always be willing to give up leading and listen to others and ask questions. So even if I look at, part of my business is this podcast, right? My job is to do the podcast. It's like everybody else does everything else, and they're friggin' amazing at it. And I don't go in there and ask for the nitty gritty and exactly what's going on. If anything, it's like they're the ones who tap me on the shoulder and go, hey, can we get this or can we get that sort of thing? And there's this flow, and it just flows, and it creates greater, and there's no trauma and drama in it. And I know what I have to do here, and it's like I have to actually just create the podcast, right? And they do all the behind the scenes stuff, which is, sometimes I think, it's got more action steps involved than me just doing this. But it's like that, always be willing to know when you are surrounded by people who are so capable, and don't try and take over from them. Let them do what they do. Let them be what they be. To me, that's been a really successful leader as well. Like making yourself replaceable and useless as soon as possible. And that is a hard one to get, is if you are willing to make yourself useless, and people go, what do you mean make yourself useless? And it's like, well, if you make yourself useless, then you have surrounded yourself by capable people. You've listened, you're being in question, and you're allowing them to step up and allowing them to choose. And they are not going to choose the same as you. I think that's a really key piece too. Nobody will choose the same as you. It just doesn't work like that. That they will choose as they choose. And again, that goes to no right, no wrongness. They will choose as they choose. But if you are functioning from, you must choose, nobody knows the business as well as I do, then how big is your business going to be? Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot smaller. If you're actually willing to listen, ask questions, surround yourself by capable people, and make yourself useless, then how big could your business be? How much could it expand and grow? How much more profitable could it be? And profitable monetarily, and profitable and energetically, in the joy, in the happy, in the enthusiasm, in the creativity.
That's the element that I love to include. When is a business profitable? When people come, when everybody who shows up is excited to get started, and when money is involved. So it's not just about the money, it's that whole atmosphere where creativity is first, and enthusiasm, and the joy of creation and joy of living. I would love to see more of that in the world, more happy people, more satisfaction. There is nothing more beautiful to watch when people have this, wow, what an amazing deal. I can't wait for the next project to start. That's, for me, a success.
Yes. That's how I've lived my whole life. I remember going to this bar when I was living in Sydney, and it was a Friday night, and I had this new job, and I was talking to a friend of mine about how excited I was, and about how excited I was about going to work on Monday. At that stage, I was doing Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, And he said to me, he looked at me with this like really strange look on his face, and he said, Simone, he went, you make me sick how much job satisfaction you get. And I went, what are you talking about? He said, I've known you for years. He said, every job you have, you get so excited and so enthused about it. And I remember looking at him going, don't you? And he was like, no. He said, people just go to work so that they can get the money, so they can go out and, drink and party and do whatever on the weekend. And I was like, oh, and it was such an aha moment for me, because my point of view is, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it? Like, let's create a different future. Let's create a future where everybody can choose what it is that they desire. For me, one of my demands in my world this year has become, how do we empower more businesses to be profitable monetarily, as we mentioned, but also, as we mentioned, that profit of the joy and the happy, and changing people's lives, changing the world, creating a difference in the world, whatever it is that you're choosing as a business. Like, let's lean into the possibilities and empower each other, and lean into supporting the businesses that are, creating this change in the world. And I'm going to say, not just government run. It's like, what private businesses, what idea do you have that you've been sitting on going, oh no, it can't possibly work? Well, it's not going to work if you don't choose it. But what if you take one step forward, another step forward, another step forward, and find out, what if that's the adventure, and the adventure of being a leader in your own life? Like that.
Yeah. Leading your own life, and let's find out. Let's find out, based on the enthusiasm and the joy of creation. And then let's see where that takes us. That's such a beautiful energy that, wow, I don't have it. I don't know where it will take me, but I know I will enjoy each step of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not waking up happy and enthused, what choice can you make today that would change that? Every single one of you in the world can make a different choice that would change that. So, David, is there anything else that you would like to mention here? Because we could talk for hours, as we know, as we usually do.
Well, I want to give you one tool that I started with, is, what is that one thing that I could do today, or that one action that I could do today that will make me happy, that will add that enthusiasm to my life. Start with one. We don't have to completely change our entire life overnight, but you could add this one element that brings you joy, that puts that big smile on your face, that creates that satisfaction. Start with one and see how it goes, and then add another one and another one. Give yourself the space and also the time to initiate that change, and then see if you like it. And if you like it, have more of it.
I love that. Thank you, David. And I think a part of this too is the willingness to commit to your life. Successful people commit to their lives. They're not looking at somebody else to blame or somebody else to, carry them forward. If you commit to you, because this is your life, it knows nobody else's. Like, this is your body, this is your life. It's nobody else's. What is it that you would truly like to choose, and what is it you would like to create? And perhaps even just start with writing some stuff down. Like, what would be thrilling for you? And in your business, wow, there's so much that we can go into. And one of the things that David and myself are both Access Consciousness facilitators, and we have started something called Access Consciousness Leadership. It's I guess it's a movement within, using the Access Consciousness tools, because both of us have a very strong desire to empower all of the businesses and organizations around the world to use these tools. And can I say the simplicity of using these tools? Because part of the basis of this is about asking questions. And if you look at history, like Socrates, his whole, the way he lived was being questioned. And so what if every time you ask a question, you open a door? Every time you go to an answer and look for a result, you literally shut doors. We would like to be a part of opening up the doors for you. So in the show notes, subscribe to the show notes. We'll have information about Access Consciousness Leadership and different things that we have going on around the world. If you would like to invite us to your company or to your city, etc., please, email us and, slide into our DMs. I've got Choice, Change and Action on Instagram if you want to ask a question in there, etc. We would like to create a change in the world. We'd like to be there with you. So I also have one other thing that I'm starting in April too, and it's called the Profit Club. And it's a ridiculously cheap price for 2 calls that you will get with me. And it is based on business, money, wealth, creativity, etc. But I'm also playing with that word profit, because most people go to, oh, that's the amount of money you have after you pay your bills. No, it's so much more than that. So if you'd like to know more about that, you can join the Profit Club as well. So David, thank you so much for being here. You are such a joy to know. I'm so grateful that we know each other in this lifetime and we get to play and create and extrapolate together. It's always just such a gift. So thank you for being here, David.
So inspiring. Thank you for your invitation.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to all of that. Do all those things. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, did you like this podcast? Love it? Hate it? Inspired by it? Can you do me a favor? Can you please write a comment, share it, like it? If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, could you tick a few stars for us? Leave a review. It's all such a contribution, and I am immensely grateful. Follow us on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action, and drop into our DMs and let us know what you would like next. When you subscribe to the show notes, you will receive a brief summary and any questions or tools we used and links to anything we discussed during the show. It might make your life easier. What if we asked for that? A life of ease, joy, and glory.